Hello, everybody. Welcome to Oxford Community Television Studios. I'm Terry Stiles, and with me today is Stephen St. Juliana. Not that he wants to be here, I'm sure, but we want to help Stephen get a word out that he mentioned at the opening of Hannah's Garden. And I think it's important that you have an opportunity to speak directly to our community, but also the public of Michigan. They need to hear from you. And so I'm not going to dig into anything you don't want to dig into. Let's start with, you mentioned that you wanted help from the community when you opened your speech at Hannah's Garden. And what is it that you want help with?
Well, I think there's kind of two levels to everything I'm talking about recently. And one is at the local level here in Oxford. And then there's also the bigger picture of throughout the state of Michigan. And it really starts here at the local level.
Always.
And getting people to step forward and be vocal in their thoughts and to take action. And that's what's missing here in Oxford. As I said in my speech at the opening, for all of the efforts that myself and the other victims from the school shooting and other certain members in the community have gone through, there's been almost no significant change from that date.
And the change that you would like to see, I know one is transparency. On what level? On the local government level,
Yeah.
on the school level, on the statewide government level, all of the above?
All of the above. I mean, it starts here at the local level, obviously, having the transparency of finding out what actually happened, because, I've been a big proponent of, everybody has their opinions, and that's great, but let's get the data.
Right. Facts.
Right? Let's focus on the facts of what happened, what didn't happen, what should have happened and didn't, and then go off of that to determine what are the changes that need to happen. And along with that is, the responsibility, taking the responsibility for when things go wrong, owning up to them and saying, yes, this was a mistake. We have to fix this next time.
Right.
And today,
without admitting that mistake, it could happen. There could be a next.
yeah, if you can't talk about a problem, you can't fix a problem.
Agreed.
Right? And to date, the school has not admitted to doing anything wrong.
And so you mentioned that you read the report, 590 some pages.
The guidepost report, the second guidepost report was like
Right,
590
and
pages.
So is that not guiding, as it's saying, what happened and what should happen?
Well, you would think so, right? So, the taxpayers spent $3 million on this report, in this investigation by Guidepost. And it's basically was done and then put on a shelf.
They
The
gave a
state of
conclusion,
Michigan,
right?
they had many conclusions. They concluded very clearly that there was gross negligence across the board, from the Board of Education, the school administrators, right across the board, gross negligence. But nothing's been done.
No changes have been made.
The school hasn't admitted that's true. There's been no discipline for anybody.
Right.
In fact, just the opposite. They promoted people. So at the local level,
Right.
the data still, it's just a struggle to get that data, see what happened, right?
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not here to give my opinion about it, but government employees are exempt from lawsuits, from punishment. Is that part of that? And
Yes.
is that something that you would like to see change?
Yeah, so right now, all state government employees basically have immunity unless, and this is where it starts to get technical, they have to be the proximate cause versus
prove that?
a proximate cause, right? So the difference here being is So in the case of the Oxford shooting, the state would argue that nobody from the school administration, the BOE, were the ones that pulled the trigger.
Wow.
And if they weren't the ones that pulled the trigger, they weren't the cause of death, right? Whereas if you look at the parents of the shooter,
Right.
they're only held to being a proxima cause. So they were found guilty and put in prison based on the negligence, gross negligence of being a proxima cause. But state employees have a higher level of protection than normal citizens in the state, which to me is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that has been one of the biggest factors that have prevented getting to what actually happened, because law enforcement says they have immunity, so what's the point of investigating? Prosecutors say they have immunity, so what's the point of prosecuting?
Oh, I see.
Right? So those are the normal in our society right now. Those are the methods that we get to the facts.
Okay.
Is through law enforcement investigations, prosecutions, they go into trials. This is how you get the data and you get the facts out. Well, because of the government immunity, none of this happens.
They don't investigate, or they redact what they investigate, or you get the report, or you don't get the report, or do you know?
Well, that's
Good question.
that's all part of it, right? So in the case you'd mentioned the redaction. So I have a state suit against the Michigan State Police because we asked them for all of the information regarding the okay to say tips regarding the Oxford shooting, leading up to and including the shooting. And they refused. They gave us excuses saying, oh, our systems aren't set up to get that information, and oh, there's not really that much data there. And they just flat out refused. Well, that led to me filing a suit when we found out that during the Guidepost investigation, Guidepost asked for that same information, and they were given 90 pages of information regarding the okay to say. But it was so heavily redacted, it was useless. And this is according to the Guidepost investigators. They could only read, I believe, one full entry from there. Everything else was so heavily redacted, it was unusable.
Interesting.
So you have to ask yourself why, right?
Right. So was that under the FOIA also? Or, I mean, if say a newspaper FOIA'd that information, would they still be able to redact all that information?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so
There's just no way to get that information other than my lawsuit.
so there's two I want to go back to, you want more involvement from the community.
Yes.
What would be the end goal, and what do you want the community? You want them to speak up? You want them to pay attention? You want them to be there?
You summed it up perfectly.
Oh,
right there.
Those
Right.
are all questions, but okay.
It's all of the above, and it starts at the local level, being more aware of what's going on with the local school board, with the local schools, as well as at the state level with what is or is not happening with the state legislature, the state board of education. You know, there's a lot in the news right now about education in Michigan, right?
Right.
A lot of debate.
Yeah.
Very little of it right now is focused on the school safety aspect of it.
Still.
I mean, it's right now it's focused on money and the fact that, you know, Michigan ratings for schools are so low. I mean, we've spent so much money, and the ratings have just keep going down.
So in that respect, what would need to happen? Would someone need to write a bill that would demand more transparency in safety for children? And if so, who would do that?
So, I mean, there are a lot of bills that have been proposed already. One of the things that has to be done is they have to go back and amend the laws that are on the books currently. And the reason I say that is as I got more and more involved at the state level and in digging into this, most of the school safety legislation reads more like recommendations. And the reason I say that is because they say, oh, you will do this. But if the schools don't, there's no repercussions.
Got it.
Right?
And so you're talking like a drill, or what would the safety features?
So, for example, the threat assessments. So they just added a new bill that makes threat assessments mandatory as part of the EOPs in Michigan.
Right.
Well, that's great. But there's no real fidelity of implementation within the bill that says this is how we check to make sure it's actually been done and that it's being implemented regularly. Because theoretically, Oxford Schools was ahead of the curve. They had threat assessment as part of their emergency operation plan. The problem is they didn't practice it. It was on paper, was never implemented. So
okay, so that needs to be modified so that they'd have to turn something in, say that they've actually practiced that, or like tornado drills.
Yeah, interesting, because they actually, as part of their EOP, they do have to turn something in every 2 years, and that may have changed now. They're supposed to have a review with local law enforcement and county prosecutor's office, and they're supposed to sign off that the EOP exists, and et cetera. There's a lot around the shooting. Oxford was supposed to have been in the process of doing that, and they hadn't done it. They had postponed it, knowing that they were going to be late. Legally, they were going to be late with their review. But previously, it had also been signed off on. So how does it get signed off on when there was no implementation of the threat assessment?
And is there a penalty if they are late or if they don't? So, in my mind, and so I've been on boards, I've been on town councils. In my mind, the police need to communicate with the school. The police needs to communicate, whether it's Michigan State Police, and I think there should be a committee, the Oakland County Police, the Michigan State Police, the township supervisor, the village manager, the superintendent of schools, I think, have the power to initiate these changes and then to see that they happen, right?
Well, see, that's part of the problem as far as I see it, is that's not always the case. So you have this idea of local control. So the school board is a power unto itself, right? And I mean, that was part of this whole process of us trying to get a state investigation, and the Attorney General originally saying, oh no, she doesn't have the authority. She finally reversed herself on that and is conducting an investigation now.
Independent from...
But
okay.
Still, it's, you talk about the local police communicating with the school. Well, that's absolutely true, but it has to go the other way as well, right?
Yeah.
In the case of the Oxford shooting, it was the school who did not communicate to the SRO rather. It was the school who failed to follow the warning from the Michigan State Police and Department of Homeland Security about, around right after Thanksgiving, right after holidays, there's a higher chance of these types of incidents happening. So, it has to go both ways.
So is there, hopefully this message is getting out to our community that you are asking your people, we are your people, to speak up.
Yes, because for all of the actions that we've taken, all of the interviews like this that I've done, all of the discussions I've had with state legislators from both parties, almost no significant change has been made. And right now, even in the courts, our lawsuits, for the most part, been dismissed because of the government immunity.
But you did have an appeal that went through, right?
Yeah, that's slightly different. That one is with against the Michigan State Police, which I mentioned. But all of the lawsuits involving the schools, et cetera, have been dismissed. They are all on appeal right now, but regardless, they've all been dismissed. So we're not making progress.
Have you had one-on-ones with the powers that be? Let's talk about that. You've had one-on-ones
I've
with the
spoken
governor,
with the governor, the attorney general, multiple legislators, the sheriff, the county prosecutor, the board of education. Who else is there to talk to, right? So the only remaining people to talk to is the people.
Are your people.
Right.
And we are all your people. Right.
And because at this point, the way I see it is the only entity right now that can force some change is the Oxford School Board.
Okay.
They're the only ones that have the power right now to step up, take responsibility, and send a message all the way up to the state legislature and governor, and basically, step up, take responsibility, accept the consequences, and do the right thing, and send that clear message. Because right now, as I said, they haven't even acknowledged that they did anything wrong. And what's driving that is the insurance company. So by the insurance policy that with SETSEG that the school has, their hands are completely tied when it comes to settlement negotiations, everything like that. They're not even being told by their lawyers. Their lawyers are actually lawyers for the insurance company.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
They're not, those lawyers are not even informing the board of offers that they make or, counter offers that they receive. The board is in complete darkness when
they're tied.
Right?
Yeah.
And they have to step up, right? They have to say no to this and take this responsibility back.
Okay.
Because this insurance company is run by superintendents, state employees from throughout the state, right?
Yeah.
They also have almost a monopoly on the insurance in the state of Michigan. So you have the whole system is looking out to protect the system, the status quo. So you have the state employees who have government immunity.
Now you need insurance regulation.
Right. Now you have an insurance company run by state employees who are protecting the money rather than the students. And the only way that changes is if Oxford steps up and says enough, because otherwise it's simply passing the buck to the next school district that this happens to.
Yeah.
And it will happen again. There's no question. It will happen again. and it's going to be the exact same situation. And you just have to hope and pray that instead of 4 students, it's not 30 students. Because the likelihood is it's going to be the same insurance company with the same lawyers, and they're going to do the same actions to keep things quiet, keep the facts from coming out. And it just, just going to get worse and worse. Take the responsibility and let's force change through the state.
Even if the change doesn't happen here,
Yeah.
the future, something needs to be done, because like you said, it is going to happen again.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. I hope this helps. I'm inspired because I'd like to see some reform for sure, and changes. And the thing that you have to walk through when you go into the school, that's really great. It detects metal, I'm sure. But you need protection as a parent.
Yeah, there's so much. Part of the problem here is very few people have actually gone and read the guidepost report to find out all of these details, many of which are in there, right? And it's to the point where, at the last board meeting, I think it was, I said that I'm committed to using any tool at my disposal to force this change. And at this point, it's the language that the insurance company wants to speak, that the state wants to speak, is money. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, that's the lever that I'm being forced to use. And I think the community is going to be forced to use. And to that end, like I said, one way they can send a clear message is the school is talking about putting a sinking fund, asking for a new sinking fund onto the ballot for next year. And they're voting on that July 29th of this month, whether or not they put that on the ballot and ask for money. And I think before then, the community needs to write the letters to the school board and state, no, they're not going to vote for the sinking fund for various reasons, but to send a clear message to force the change.
So if people want to get their hands on the guidepost report, now that we've spoken about it again, how do they do that?
Well, there's a couple of ways. It's on the Oxford Community Schools website. I don't remember the exact links. You have to dig through that a little bit, but you can get through it there. You could look it up, just Google it, Oxford Guidepost Report, and it'll bring you to Guidepost itself has a website dedicated to the report. So those are the two easiest ways to get to the report itself.
And if people want to get in touch with you, is that a possibility?
Sure, I'm open to discuss.
Want more of your discussion. How can they do that? Through us?
Yeah,
They
that's
can
fine.
call us?
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll
fine.
let you know. Okay, so that's our telephone number, our website. We'll put it down on the bottom of the page. And,
Yeah, more than willing to sit down with anybody and go over, answer any questions, the whys of what I'm saying and what I'm saying, what's been done, what hasn't been done, anything.
And where you go from here.
Where we go from here.
Yeah. You're in a situation you didn't want to be in.
Absolutely not.
And
we don't want anybody else. We don't want anybody else to be in this same situation. That's why we're pushing so hard.
Yeah.
It's not for our kids that we lost as much as it's for everybody else's kids.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that I'm not sure people really understand. I think a lot of people hear myself or Buck speaking, and all they see and hear is a grieving parent, which we are.
Of course.
But people just need to realize there's so much more beyond that.
Well, if this tragedy can help save other children because of what you're doing now, and that makes sense.
That's
And that
the
should
whole
be
point.
what people see.
It's the whole point. Everything we're doing is towards creating a lessons learned for the state.
Right, right.
I've been consistent. That's one of the things I've been consistent on saying right from the get-go, was we need to look at this from an objective, data-driven perspective and force the change throughout the state. Too many of our community members believe that, oh, so everything's been investigated and the state and the system is underway of making changes to protect our kids. And that is so wrong, right? It's not true. The state is doing everything it can to maintain the status quo.
Okay.
Not to make changes that we need. Protecting the
the
state,
insurance company,
the
and
institutions, the money. That's all they're focused on.
Okay, all right, great. I'm glad we had you here today. You enlightened me for sure.
Thank you for having me.
I hope we can help.
All right, thank you.
And our prayers go to you, always. And thank you for joining us. If you are curious or interested or want to speak up, so give us a call, 248-628-9658, and I will get you in touch with Stephen St. Juliana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peyton Manning, and I'm partnering with the American Red Cross this year to tackle blood shortages. Giving blood's important because every 2 seconds, someone actually needs blood, and unfortunately, only like 3% of the US population donates. So we have to step up to give and to make sure there's plenty of blood available for those in need. Visit redcrossblood.org to get in the game and make an appointment to give.
One in every 500 African Americans in the U.S. suffers from sickle cell disease. 1 in 3 African American blood donors is a match for patients with sickle cell. 1 appointment to donate blood with the American Red Cross can help save a life. Will you be that one? Visit redcrossblood.org/ourblood today to schedule an appointment at a location near you.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
My son Ian was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 16 months. The outlook was pretty rough. We had no hope until St. Jude rescued us. I mean, they saved him. But then it turned out he had a second cancer. To this date, we are 12 years into this journey, and from day one, we've never once seen a bill. It gave us the peace of mind to know that we're there with our son, and we're gonna beat cancer together. Now, he is doing really, really well. He's alive because of what St. Jude has done. He's here because of the doctors who came before, their blood, their sweat, their tears of every day being in that hospital, the knowledge that has been accumulated and shared with everyone else around the world. This is how we get rid of this, how we help kids beat cancer all over. It's the future.